Shabbat Shalom to everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome so many of you here this morning, especially as we get to celebrate a special moment in Pearson's life with your family as you become a bar mitzvah. You may remember from last week's Parsha that Jacob had been deceived by his father and therefore Jacob deceived his father, and then therefore deprived his brother, Esau, of the birthright. We know that his brother, who was much stronger and wilder than he was enraged at what happened, and Jacob fled, fearing for his life. So he went back to his mother's homeland. And as he was leaving that first night away from family, not knowing what to expect in the middle of the desert, it came time to make camp and to go to sleep. We'll read that he had a dream. And in that dream, he saw this famous ladder that's depicted behind me on the stained glass windows. And in that ladder that was resting on earth and reaching up to heaven, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And God hovered over that ladder and said to Jacob, "I am the Lord your God, God of your father Abraham and Isaac. I will give to you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. You will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. And all peoples on earth will bless themselves through you and your offspring. I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." And then it's the next verse that is quoted so often, that's powerful and haunting. And it says, when Jacob awoke, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." That line is so powerful because in a very real way, it is the description of most people's religious and theological position. It is the summary where most people are or have been at some point in their life, in terms of God or in terms of how they operate each and every day. Many go through life oblivious until something occurs and they have that awakening moment and finally acknowledge, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." There's a really famous story of a man who once said to his rabbi, "Rabbi, I was an atheist, or at least I was an agnostic, until my son was born. However, I was together with my wife in that birthing room when my wife was in labor. I was there when she gave that final kvetch, and out came a beautiful 7.5-pound baby boy with 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 2 arms, and 2 legs. Right then and there, I became a believer in God." That is one way of knowing that there is a God. It is the same description that people often say when they see a sunset at the Grand Canyon or visit some other physical wonder throughout the world. And they look up and recognize that there surely is God in this world. In fact, perhaps the best statement came from the astronaut Edgar Mitchell. He said, "What happened to me was that I looked at Earth and I saw a universe laid out before me with this tiny little planet and these millions or billions of stars and galaxies and galactic clusters, all laid out in such magnificent array. It was an internal sense of joy. It was a high. It was a wow. And then I had the irrefutable feeling within myself that is this intelligent system that I'm looking at. This is not, as we in science had characterized it, as random collection, made up from a random collection of energy matter, that there is a coherence, that there is an intelligence palpable in the universe. The New York Times once a week devotes a section to science. And a few years ago, they had a series of articles about cosmology. It is the blending of astronomy, physics, and ironically, to some extent, metaphysics, coming from the scientific point of view. I'll be honest, I was not able to follow all of it. But I think the gist of it is rather fascinating. It ultimately comes back to the Big Bang Theory, that there's some kind of primordial matter tightly packed together, which explodes. The universe is all contained in this little bit of matter, and as it unfolded and exploded, it began a chain of events that unleashed the universe as we understand it today. Is there any possibility that such an amazing phenomenon simply happened randomly? How can we conceive that such order can emanate out of chaos without someone or something arranging it? What is even more fascinating is how the Kabbalists explain the beginning of the world, with the emanation of divine energy from a divine source. Energy that emanates out of one point from the source of the infinity called the Ein Sof. And as it expands and develops, it differentiates and becomes the totality of the universe in which we function. It's hauntingly similar, except the Kabbalistic theory predates modern physics by over 1,000 years. The entire universe has God's fingerprints on it. There is simply too much order, too much rhyme or reason, too much cause and effect for this to be purely random. All we need to do is open up our eyes and see it, and then we know it. Yes, God is in this place, and I was not aware. Sometimes the complications, the calculations, the fears, and the challenges that we have block out our vision. We just need to open our eyes, be aware, to have the filter, the veil that covers us, be lifted off for a few short moments, and to see what has always been there, if only we could take a truer look. Sometimes we want to open our eyes, but it's not easy. There are aids. There are tools that we have. One of the reasons that we continue to pray is a chance to communicate to God. But another reason that we pray is to help us discover that there is God. We need to pray in order to give ourselves the chance to lift that veil. Even if you come to shul, you will not find God in each and every time. But every time that you're here, in a service or pray at home, you have increased the probabilities that that moment of awareness will happen, that that veil of darkness will be lifted, that precisely at one magical moment, the words, the place, the environment, the music, where you are in life, some or all of these will cause you to see what has always been there, but you were unaware. This is the moment when you'll be like Jacob and say, God is in this place, and I did not know it. Shabbat Shalom.